Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another Matt Talk. And this week, I wanted to have a very different conversation about the hotel jobs of the future because a lot is shifting in hospitality, especially with the rise of cloud systems. But AI has obviously been a real factor in the transformation of hospitality and the jobs that are in hospitality today, but also in the long term. So I thought, who in Mews is the best equipped to talk about this? And it might be George, it might not be, but
It's
we'll
not, it
find
might
out.
be.
But George, do you want to maybe introduce who you are?
Sure, yeah. So I've had the privilege of working with Matt for about 4.5 years at Mews. I am in the marketing organization. So think about how Mews is positioned, what we talk about, the story, the narrative, the way that we're perceived, our brand every single day, and want to show extreme empathy towards hoteliers about how difficult their jobs are, but also try and push the conversation about technology and innovation. Um,
So what's your
in a
title?
way.
Like, 'cause that sounds
Yeah,
like
what is my
that sounds like
title?
a marketing spiel, but what's your actual title?
Well, again, my title is pretty marketing as well because it's the longest title I think at Muse, which is I think Senior Director of Regional Marketing and Communications. So looking after field operations for marketing, PR, enterprise marketing, big events like Unfold, and partnerships and marketplace partner
And you've
marketplace.
been covering hospitality for a while in previous
I
jobs, right?
have, yeah, that's right. Yes, I when I first started in my career, I was supporting something called the Hospitality TV channel, where essentially as a 24, 25-year-old, I got to go and interview many of the CEOs and the leaders of hospitality.
The topic of today's conversation is the jobs of the future in hotels.
Mm.
Let's open up with what are the hospitality jobs that you don't expect to exist in 10 years time from today?
Yeah, it's obviously technology is going to become even more pervasive than we currently know it today. And we talk about things like the night audit and the night auditor not being there, or and that feels like very old hat for Muse now. But obviously, if you type in night auditor onto LinkedIn, I think there's still a
Oh, the
hundred
job still
thousand
exists. Yeah.
jobs still
But
exist.
not in a Muse hotel, but they exist
Not,
in
not
other
obviously
hotels.
not an Amuser hotel,
Yeah.
but those sorts of things where there's automation and data entry, obviously, I think is the obvious answer here. Reservation agents and things that are taking reservations or event reservations, I think increasingly those sorts of roles will become augmented into roles which are enabled by the technology and that the guest or the reserver or the customer, I guess you would call it in some of these things, has a lot more information and is allowed to input a lot more into or give a lot more information to the hotel or the space to be able to create the perfect reservation or event for them. Dare I say it, other roles that I think are on the chopping block or are really being augmented would
You're
be
making faces already, like you're
yeah,
like,
I know. Well, especially with these two groups of people, which will be lawyers and accountants. So really think about like their roles and how that's going to be changed and the number that you might need in big organizations and small might change. And then the third, like this is just like who do I not like? Like I'm from marketing. And so copywriting and or creative have been so quickly advanced in the way that AI has enabled us to do things and the proliferation or the amount or the speed in which you can generate both copy and creative is a really, really interesting moment that we're currently living in where those sorts of roles can be supremely augmented by the tools that we have. It's similar to like a revenue manager. I was having a conversation with our revenue management team the other day, and they were like, "We don't want the tool to be too overbearing or too complex or too good in a
yeah.
way." Because the revenue managers who we're trying to sell to won't want to buy it. And so, like, you have this real weird juxtaposition where
You're
the
selling to the
role
person that is also being replaced by the
being
technology.
replaced, and that's a really difficult moment. But I think the people that are going to win in these sorts of things are the ones who lean into that and the
Yeah.
ones who really understand that yes, my job and my role is changing and I'm comfortable with that and I'm going to lean into this uncomfortable moment. I think anybody who's talking about AI in an eloquent way or in seemingly like knows what they're talking about, unless you're Sam Altman or somebody
Yeah.
like that. I don't think anybody really knows how it's going to change or shape the future.
Yeah.
But I think the best place that you can be right now is really leaning into how it can solve problems quicker, how it can increase your output even more, or how it can, if in a service industry, how it can make interactions even easier or even more personalized or even more exciting or whatever that is, whatever that kernel is for that guest, even better. So I
And
think,
and you
yeah,
talked about that revenue manager role specifically, where we're selling to a person who, if they didn't change anything, their job might become obsolete. How would you consider that role changing so that they don't lose their job, but actually they shift into something different?
yeah, like there's this idea, there's obviously these ideas of guest experience managers or people who can curate experiences around you as your guest or you as the individual, and how they do that and how they're enabled to do that can be made even better by the use of technology. I was thinking yesterday that maybe there's finally a use for Google Glasses or Meta Glasses,
Yes.
because if those guest experience people are walking around a hotel and suddenly they see a guest and the glasses recognize them
Yeah.
and they've got some information about them in their eyes, then they can then go and personalize that experience to that guest and say, oh, you're looking for bikes, or what are you going to do, or like what's going on. And maybe that is a really interesting place for a front of house manager or a front guest experience or guest relations team,
But it's
because
not far off what you're talking about. So we are
completely.
on our kiosk in our online check-in, we're now adding a selfie tool so that when you do an online check-in, we ask you to upload a selfie because every device comes with a camera. And with the AI tooltips that we have in the profiles, the moment we recognize the face, we can pull up an AI tooltip saying, have been with us for 15 times and really whatever, enjoys whatever,
Yeah,
has
yeah.
a dog that's called Beyonce. And those things could happen within the next year, I think already.
I think it's really interesting. I think what we have to be careful of, we had a really strong debate in our Paris event we had last year, where the hotel or the business holding data or holding information about guests and guest data is a really interesting space at the moment, because the example in Paris was somebody said, you know somebody's birthday, can you write that on the guest reservation notes and keep it so that you can then create an experience when their birthday comes around again? There's a huge debate about whether you can retain that information or whether no, that's actually goes against data privacy rules and all of that
Yeah.
sort of thing. And I think it's the same with a lot of the information that you can glean on certain guests as and when they're staying with you.
Like, and hotels do it, right? So the birthday is the easy thing because when you check in, you give your passport. They should know your birthday. However, what they do with it is so uninspiring. Like I always get a birthday cake on my birthday or whatever, like a nice VIP setup in the room. And I'm just like, it's not personalized. And I think the exciting thing for people that are in a job in hospitality is like, what can we do that is truly
Mm,
unique for
mm,
Matt? Like, I'm lactose intolerant. Don't give me a cake with lactose in it. Like, it's a lovely
mm,
touch, but your AI should have told them that
mm.
I can't have things with milk in it.
Right.
But I still get the cake with milk in it. And it's like the humans needing to really help connect the dots and create these really
Yeah.
special experiences based on the information they're fed. And I think that's the future of these jobs that are morphing from can I have your passport and your credit card to what are we going to do for Matt
Yeah.
that is memorable.
And isn't that so much more exciting as a career? Because a lot of the jobs in hospitality are pretty transactional. Like
Yeah.
they're like you're here for 6 months and then you move on. And obviously you were a part of a hotel. Rich has been part of a hotel. Like and that's been a career for you both. The majority of people are not there for the long term. But
Yeah.
imagine it's such an exciting space to go and work if you're talking in these terms and if you're thinking in these ways, because suddenly, you know, not all guests are going to be great. Like you're going to get some wrong uns in there, but the ability to create incredible experiences for people, I think, is an incredibly rewarding
Yeah.
place to be. Be you in the front office, back office, wherever it might be. I think people really love other people being happy. I
So,
hope, at
so if I
least.
go back to the question we started with,
Yes.
which
Sorry.
are the jobs that will disappear? You
Mm.
mentioned reservation agent, group reservation agent, revenue manager, night auditor. These are all back office jobs. So it sounds like these are the people that are in the back office are doing the really difficult work that we needed humans for, but actually AI is so good that it can take over. Are there jobs that are being created for our industry that didn't exist before?
Yes. Like we've spoken about guest experience creators, I think we're going to increasingly see technologists or tech operations people within hotels who are constantly thinking about the ways that solutions, be it ones they build off of the back of an API or themselves, or ones that they buy, like Mews,
Yeah.
how they can create better back office experiences or enable better back office and front office experiences. And those sorts of people are going to be that bridge between hospitality and technology that are going to be so in demand because consumers and guests are having pretty advanced tech experiences in their everyday lives. Like the Ubers is a great example, obviously. And as you do self checkout at a supermarket,
Yeah.
we're exposed to all of this stuff across all of our life now. And somebody who's thinking about the way in which we can scale personalized experiences is through the technology in which you implement. It's going to be really, really an interesting thing to watch and see. And yeah, like I think those people who are technologists, not necessarily coders, not necessarily engineers, but those who can create the right prompts to build the thing or to create the thing. I
Structured
think
thinkers almost, like who think through the challenge and who can step away from, right, let me think about this hotel end to end guest experience, and who can map that out in their head and thinking this is where I need a solution. But that is a very specific skill set that you have to look for. That is not a skill set that we've traditionally hired for in
yeah.
hotels.
Well, and it's like you always, when you're faced with a problem, you always try and go and solution it straight away. It's like it's
Yes.
this constant thing that you try and do. You got
Yeah.
to really consciously take a step back and go, no, like here's how I think it's going to work. Here's the business strategy of like we want to grow our portfolio of hotels from 5 now to 25 in 10 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
And like how are we going to do that? What are we going to white label? What do we need to build? Do I need to go and engage with 30 tech providers to go and best in class it and build my tech stack? Am I going to choose one all in one, or am I going to go and do a combination of them both? I think people, you know, we can't know as Mews what that hotel wants to do or what they or how they want to operate, and we certainly don't know who their guests are necessarily. So it's up to them to decide. And I think those people who can bridge what we're saying, again, going back to what I originally said, empathizing with hoteliers, but also pushing innovation with technology
Yeah.
and not ostracizing hoteliers by saying, well, you need to do AI this and AI that.
Yeah.
Dude, we're still not on the cloud, or like we're still over here. So those people who can think about that, I think, are going to be really, really important going
Like,
forward.
and it's this first principle thinkers, like saying, and this is a thing that has shifted in the last few years with AI coming in, because actually you shouldn't think about what we've done before, because actually that no longer matters. So if you were to solve a problem, you say, like, let me step away from this and let me holistically think about the experience without taking into account all the departments and all the humans that I have across this hotel. What are the problems that we have to solve for? How would I structure that? And then you start to fill in the people below it. But very few do that. When we come into a hotel with Mews, they're like, great, I'll just rip out the old system, I'll put Mews in, and then we just run it like we've always run it. And I think you don't achieve the right results in a hotel like that when you think about the GMs of the future, because the GM is the leader of innovation. And they've always come up through food and beverage or front office. Those are the paths that people come in. What's shifting in that particular role?
I think the title will stay the same as general manager, so I currently understand it. But the role of the general manager, I think, is incredibly entrepreneurial. Is constantly thinking about ways in which you can, drive guest loyalty, drive direct bookings, create incredible experiences for your guests on site. And we've got numerous examples now of general managers not only leveraging Mews, but thinking about the guest experience in completely fundamentally different ways. And that's all being enabled by the technology in which they're implementing.
If you were the hotel owner and it was your job to hire the GM of the future, what would the profile of that GM of the future be like?
Yeah, I actually think about this in my own hiring sometimes, not as a general manager, but in my own hiring philosophy for my team. And it's like a propensity to empathy, like a strong empathy towards the challenges, the problems, the people.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got to be a people person, and then an attitude to action. I don't think anybody knows the right answers, but what frustrates me the most is sitting on something or
Yeah.
waiting for something to be perfect. And I think those sorts of roles are going to be incredibly potent. And that is the job role of the general manager. Like you lean into that uncertainty, you go for it, and you think about ways in slightly different ways, or you're open to different ideas. I like opening the floor to really junior people in my team because, of course, the way that they engage with something like a large language model, to me, I think I use it as an extension of Google,
Yeah.
right? And that is predominantly how people like 30 up use it. But as I think about new people entering the workforce, I think they're using it in an entirely different way, and I want to learn from them. And so a constant, ability to learn is going to be really, really important. But that emotional intelligence, I think, is going to scream through for most leaders.
I just had a meeting with a Mews team member, and I look for people that can be transformative in the way that they use AI. And I always ask questions about AI in the interview now. And I said, if I wanted to build an app, like, where would I begin? And he said, like, you go in ChatGPT and you know what the problem is that you want to solve. And you work with ChatGPT to say, I need a script to build an app to solve this problem. And this is what I wanted to do. And then give it to me in a script that I can then use in Lovable, which is another AI tool that actually builds the app for you. And ChatGPT helps you build the script. Then you go into Lovable and it builds you the app, and that app can be live within a day. And honestly, within one day, you can learn how to build an app end to end. And yes, it might not be a Muse type of system. It might be a chat app that you build for your hotel on your website, but it is 100% possible. And
Yeah.
a lot of hoteliers have this fear of like, yeah, I don't really understand it. It's like, I don't understand it, but I'm about to. I will go in and figure this out. And just don't be afraid of it. Just try it. And if it fails, then you ask ChatGPT, what did I get wrong? And it will actually tell you what you got wrong.
Yeah.
But the thing that hoteliers have is a deep understanding of the problems that they're looking to solve. And then that is what's driving these kind of great outcomes. But it's this mindset that we need to find. And I think when you do interviews, ask them about how they use AI in their day-to-day life, because it will tell you the kind of person that you're having in front of you.
Yeah. Even if you're just experimenting. I mean, I was just playing Lego this morning with my kids. They don't know what they're doing, but they're sticking things together and they're trying stuff out, and you don't know where it's going to go, but suddenly it becomes something, and your
It's in their
imagination runs.
head, right?
It's in there, yeah, right. But like that's great. It's almost like my answer to that question about how you use AI every day is I just try. I just like throw stuff at it and see what happens. And oftentimes I'm amazed by the results that I get. And like building landing pages, direct booking has always been sort of this conversation that I remember having way back when. And it was like, do you compete with OTAs and all of that sort of thing? Well, actually now I think you have the ability to do that, not through any fault of your own, but like if you are optimized to be discoverable by these large language models, then booking Expedia, how are you going to respond? Because people are just going to start booking direct if you've been able to curate experience, like curate your, I don't know, online
Like the
experience.
moment. So, and it's the role of the marketeer in the hotel who traditionally was just building the website and doing stuff.
Right.
You're working with a blogger to create content. I'm like, no, you can do your own content really fast. You can spin up a landing page. So what's important for ChatGPT is getting as much talked about you online and lean into that conversation. If they're talking about the great experience you have for dogs specifically, you're seeing that chatter happening on TripAdvisor. Great, spin up a landing page that talks specifically about what you do, because then you're discoverable, and then you can have a booking engine there with very specific facilities for pet owners. And that doesn't have to be your standard booking engine. It can be just specifically on that landing page. And if you ask that question to the marketing person saying, can you just spin up a landing page? And like, I don't know how to do that. You know that you've got the wrong person, because this is so easy today. Like anyone should be able to spin up a landing page, deploy a booking engine with a custom kind of dog kind of features in there. But it's that skill set that people are missing. So, should every hotel or every hotel brand have a chief AI officer, you think?
No. And the reason I say that is because AI is just going to be, it's almost going to be like, should you have a chief email officer as we understand it today? Your AI officer is just like non-existent because it is everything. It's it's so pervasive. Everybody's using it. Maybe you need a CEO who prompts the prompts in AI to go, have you thought about this, or have you thought about that? Or here's the AI wrapper
So
that
is
you
the
can use.
GM the chief AI officer?
Well, that's an interesting idea. Yeah, probably.
Like they need to stimulate people to embrace the new technology. And if the GM doesn't live it, then it's not the culture, and then it will never happen.
Yeah, I think that's probably where it's at. And I mean, the other thing is that you're having people enter the workforce now where AI is just like part of their life.
Yeah.
We're learning it, right? We're in this era of like learning AI, learning how and getting excited about it. But as I think about my kids going into education, is the fact that they don't know a language going to be such a barrier in 20 years' time? Don't know.
Yeah.
Probably not. So why would we look at languages? Is accountancy a job that I want them to go in? Is a lawyer a job? Probably not,
Yeah.
because information has been democratized, right? Everybody has access to all the information. So yeah, the
The
general
job,
manager.
like if I think about several jobs will disappear inevitably.
Yeah,
It's a lot of the back office jobs will disappear. Some roles will do more of, which is these guest experience jobs where people get to really be creative, but create these experiences. And that's actually the fun jobs. Like a receptionist used to be a passport and credit card process data entry person. Not very exciting. Suddenly that job is being taken over, but actually they shift to a much more fun and engaging job. I think IT managers will disappear, but suddenly you can hire a Gen Zer who is a structural thinker, first principle thinker, who can think through some of these experiences. What's the profile that, if you think about hotel schools and, or where we get talents from, like it used to be hotel schools, will it be hotel schools? And what's kind of wrong with education today to get the next generation ready for what's happening in our industry?
I always look to hire for somebody, and I think this is hopefully is quite a good strategy to hire for something different. Hire for somebody who's going to push and to everybody says like, oh, hire better than you, yada yada yada,
Yeah.
whatever. But hiring different perspectives, I think, is a really important thing, and hiring for people who are going to rub each other on the wrong way. But I think in terms of hiring out of hotel schools, I think schools in general are going to have to completely upgrade the way that they think. If you think about learning out of a textbook, well, you can get Harvard courses on YouTube now. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on going to Harvard because the lectures are on YouTube. Like that information has been democratized idea. Like education or where we hire from or how we hire.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's such a big question because I'm like anxious about my kids and where I send them and like you're learning out of a book. Like do you even need to do that
Yeah.
anymore? Like is it more important to learn and understand the cultural differences of like doing business in Japan versus doing business in America versus doing business in the UK versus doing business in Prague? Like those nuances, I think, and certainly for a hotel
Yeah.
who have international guests, that way that you interact with them is going to be really important to understand. AI can't do that,
Yeah.
but AI can certainly democratize data for you.
Like we just hired someone out of a hotel school and we hired them not because of the hotel school, but because they had this entrepreneurial spirit
Mm,
and they had started their own business right out of hotel school. And then
mm,
through that they learned really critical skills about what's involved with being an entrepreneur. And I was like, great, that is
yeah,
what I want in Mews. Someone
yeah,
who's unafraid to do something crazy and fail at it, but then
yeah,
do something different. You want those people in your hotel. Some people who are just like building a brand that is unique that customers travel back for. And it won't be your traditional people that have worked for all of their lives in front office because they know this how the system works. You need that mindset. And it really is a different kind of mindset that you might not find in hospitality schools. You might find that in tech school or in a completely different education. So the way that you attract talents. Your brand, your employer brand is really critical that you're
yeah.
very
Brand.
specific about what you're looking for in the job profile, that you don't look for skills of, I want them to work with the legacy systems that we have deployed in our hotel. No, no, I'm looking for an entrepreneur to come into the hotel and you have a remit to just transform, for
Yeah,
example, revenue
your place.
management.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
how are you driving the revenue of the hotel forward? And that's the assignment. It isn't how do you drive the room rate up? It is
yeah.
how do you drive total revenue of the hotel forward? So the job description has to change. Otherwise, you won't get the applicants into the job to apply, and you will never make that change downstream. And it all starts at the top of the funnel.
Well, and it's every level, right? You said we've just hired out a grad from school.
Yeah,
Well, you've got that level and yourself thinking in these ways, like strong empathy, strong propensity to empathy, right attitude, entrepreneurial spirit, leaning into uncertainty. I love those sorts of people. I love. having conversations with this sort of people because they always are curious
Yeah.
about the problems and they want to try and solve them and they want to come up with ideas and solutions to get better as an operation.
What's one, as a last question, like what's one hotel
Mm.
job that you would want to take on in this new kind of world of hotels?
Lifeguard. I want to sit in the sun. I don't know. Like I love the surprise and delight moments when I receive them, when I get them. Like I love little like memories or moments that are created that people remember forever. And so it'd be something like that, something like where I'm probably wearing these glasses. We've got the selfie from the guest.
Yeah.
I'm walking around the hotel and just literally trying to make everybody's day a little bit better through
Yeah.
the information that I've got.
I think if I think to this conversation, it does sound like a lot is going to shift and we make it sound like a lot of jobs will disappear, but I don't think it will happen overnight. I think they'll slowly change or actually pretty fast. They'll morph into something different. But if you're one of those forward thinking hoteliers, be at the forefront, go to your job descriptions and start with that to start slowly hiring a different profile and enabling them to make an impact. And you'll see these jobs morphing because you no longer need people to manually take reservations. If you have someone who can deploy a bot on your website that can do these things, it is change is coming. And we have to just be ready for it. But it's also one of the most exciting things for hospitality. Like it means we get to deploy humans to create these really, really special experiences. And that's the thing that I take away from this
Yeah,
conversation. The future is bright, but it does require us to just shift our thinking.
yeah.
Thank you.
Well said. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Absolute privilege. Thank you.